Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering tips on writing a book about your life. You don't want your book to be boring or uninspiring. You want it to connect with people. And you can do exactly that by following the tips in this episode. By the end of this video, you will learn the importance of vulnerability, why outlining is so important, and why you shouldn't just trust your own memory. And stay tuned till the end of the video for a free opportunity. Let's dive in. Vulnerability is so important when writing a book. People read a book, they want to learn something that they can take away with them. They want to be inspired. They want to learn from somebody's stumbles and lessons and struggles. If you're not vulnerable and you're just talking about the successes you've had and the great life you have, people aren't going to learn anything from that. You know, they want to read about the tough times. They want to read how you were able to overcome. They want to read about the times when you embarrassed yourself and made the wrong decision, because they can then put themselves in your shoes and connect to you and empathize with you and understand a little bit more. They can understand from your lessons, from your struggles, and be able to carry that forward in their own life. If you're not vulnerable, it's likely that you're going to write a boring book. And literally anybody can write a boring book. Mick Jagger in the early 1980s worked with a ghostwriter to write a book. The Rolling Stones frontman obviously has a very interesting life, and he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to explore any tough topics. He didn't want to be vulnerable. And because of that, the book was never published. The book got shelved. They said, this is too boring. Mick Jagger didn't present an interesting look at his life, and the book was never published. And I think that says a lot. You know, I think any of us, if Mick Jagger has a boring book in him, any of us have a boring book within ourselves, if you allow that to happen. A lot of the clients I work with are business leaders. Maybe they run their own company, or maybe they're successful. And learning about their experiences and learning about their struggles and the tough times they've faced have given me hope and inspiration, because I can look at their lives and say, where am I at that stage? Where am I at the age that they were at, where they were making these choices and decisions and struggles? And seeing where they are at the end of it, seeing where they're at today, gives me hope. Gives me hope that I can be in their shoes someday. You know, and I think as a reader, you want to have that experience too. You want to learn about the times when somebody was struggling, when they didn't have the money that they wanted, when they didn't have the life that they wanted, you know, when they made bad decisions, and learn from them. Because if you're not learning from the book and it's just the end goal, this is where I am, I'm successful and rich, there's nothing to take away from that. There's nothing important about that. It's not special. You want to be able to see through the tough times. By being vulnerable and exploring that, it's going to make your book that much more powerful. Brainstorming your book's outline and message is so important, because then you can accordingly figure out which stories you want to include, which stories you want to carry forward in the book that connect to that purpose. You don't want to just throw a bunch of stories from your life into your book, you know, without a clear intent for them. You know, people aren't interested in just reading about your life. They want to read specifically about the story that you're telling, the message that you're sharing. If it's about being successful in business, they want to learn about your struggles in business. They want to learn about the ways that you grew as a leader. One business leader whose book I worked on with him, was really proud of him and the journey he took throughout the process, learning to lead with heart and learning to move past the management style that he had earlier in his career, and to be more curious, not judgmental, to listen more, to think things through a little bit more, and to lead with heart. And, you know, being able to explore the journey that he took made the book powerful, made the book worth reading, and made the process so inspiring for me. I learned a lot from that process, and I know readers learned a lot from the book. It's so powerful to see somebody get from this point to this point, from A to B, from beginning to end. And by mapping out the book and understanding where you're going and understanding the reader journey, it's going to make it that much more powerful. Oftentimes, when we write a book about ourselves or about our memories, it's easy to rely on things as we remember them. But our brains are funny things. Our brains will often skew different memories and ideas, different facts, and things might not have happened exactly how you remembered them. This is how you have multiple people who experience the story in different places, remembering it differently. And it's important as you write a book about your life and your experiences to interview those people, to talk to them, to explore those topics. You know, it's so easy for us just to rely on the things that we remember, but what if we didn't remember it the right way? What if there's a different way? What if there's something we left out that's a really important fact? You know, the people I've worked with in writing books, we've interviewed their relatives, we've interviewed collaborators, we've interviewed people close to them, track people down just to get those memories fresh and to get them from another vantage point. Because when you can connect 1, 2, 3 vantage points, now you have collaboration, now you triangulate it. You know, now you're getting to the heart and the spirit of the story instead of what you remember, because what you remember might not be 100% accurate. More than anything else, it's important to find out what makes your story unique. Everybody has a story in them. They do. Every single person has a story to tell. What makes you unique? What makes your story different? What makes your story stand out? It could be just a little thing. It could be a differential. It could be a different way of looking at things. It's important to tap into that. If you're a tax specialist, for example, what makes you unique or different in that space? What is your focus that makes your story and message stand out from other tax experts? You know, if you are a salesperson, what makes your story unique? What makes your story different? What did you learn during your experiences that makes you stand out? You know, what's that little wrinkle? It's really just about knowing yourself, because ultimately everybody has a unique experience. Everybody has a unique way of looking at the world. It's crucial for you to burrow deep into that, because otherwise it's going to be tough for the reader to want to care unless you can present it to them and show them that you have this different view and, hey, you should check this out. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point in reading the book? What's the point in writing the book? You need to be able to tap into what makes your story special and unique. This isn't meant to discourage you. This is meant to inspire you. You know, tap into it, burrow deeper, really figure out what makes your story special and unique. And then you can share that with the world, and the world can be inspired by that. But until you really do that deep work and tap into that and really understand the uniqueness that you're bringing, your book is just going to get lost in the shuffle. A lot of times I've seen book authors get through the writing process and not really explore their uncertainties and doubts until they get to the editing process. Now someone else is reading the material, and that's when everything creeps up. That's when all the doubts, insecurities, frustrations, concerns, because now someone else is reading it. This isn't just you writing it, now it's somebody else reading it. It's important to explore your feelings during the writing process, because otherwise you're going to explore them later. You can put them off and put them off and put them off, but eventually they're going to come up. And if those uncertainties are too big, they're going to derail your project. So it's crucial to work through those issues during the writing process when they emerge, instead of waiting, because waiting could derail the project and could keep you from publishing it. It could force you to shelve this book that you worked on that you cared about. So as issues emerge and they crop up, explore them. Find out what your feelings are, work through them, and you could find yourself in such a better place. You know, one person I worked with, you know, he had all these personal stories to share, and the book was very deep and very difficult for him. And during the writing process, he didn't really want to explore them. He really struggled with it. But through the writing process, he actually found peace. He found peace and healing inside of himself by working on the book. And it was such a powerful thing to see. You know, so being able to explore those feelings and addressing them at that point can really help you and can help you down the road. If you want to learn more about book writing, head to my website, goodghostwriter.com. Click the link below. There you can sign up for my free emails, get tips and insights into the writing process. You also have the opportunity to book a free one-on-one strategy call with me where we can actually talk about your book and I can offer you input and help you forward. If you're interested in other videos on similar topics, please like and subscribe this channel. Remember, good ghostwriting makes great books. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.